Welcome back, savages. We just took an impromptu trip to Buffalo, New York. We did a few things, but the biggest thing we wanted to see was the Buffalo Asylum, or it's called the Richardson Olmsted Asylum. I'm excited about this.
Yeah,
it was a very quick,
fun.
impromptu trip that was well worth it. The Richardson Olmsted Complex, Buffalo Asylum, was massive.
It's beyond massive. It's bigger than
It took
anything
up,
I could even imagined.
Yeah, just from the beginning, it starts like from one street, and I think it had to have gone at least 6 blocks.
Yeah.
In total 6 blocks, but like back there was acres of buildings. Unfortunately, they're in the process of doing a lot of renovating, so we could only really go through the hotel section to actually be able to see the building. But they had everything else like blocked off. You really couldn't try, and I can't climb fences. So we decided to be good people and just, do the tourist thing and walk around. But it was nice.
It was. The hotel
Oh God, it was gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous. And the old brickwork, like when you go to the front of the hotel, there's these archways that you can walk through, like they used them for service.
Yeah, they kept the all original archways.
It's just the original brick. You can just feel the energy coming from the brick itself.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just absolutely stunning. We just stood out in front of this place just in awe over how beautiful it is.
Well, that and we got confused because
yeah.
the website says things about tours, but we didn't get to do one. I think they were having some kind of event that they really just didn't talk about.
Yeah, they said you could do... They host public tours, which unfortunately there were none on the days that we were there.
Right.
But then it also said that you could go on your own and explore. But they have everything gated off, fenced off to where you can't
Doors are locked unless
anywhere.
you're a
staying at the hotel. You get a key card, and then you could get through
my brain stopped
some of the doors. But even still, you could only get so far, even if you're staying at the hotel.
Yeah.
You can't get into the actual abandoned buildings.
No.
They're all blocked off and locked up. So I don't know if it's because it's in such bad shape, because they only had enough money to redo the hotel and a couple other buildings. So I don't know if they've completely shut them off because it's not safe, or there's a bunch of articles out there that had said, I don't know if it's the current owner or the owner that had this up until a few years ago. They had completely stopped even saying the word paranormal.
Well, that goes along with what I said, last week before that, about how a lot of businesses don't like to announce that they have activity of any kind, whether it's paranormal or sounds or anything like that, because they don't want A, the publicity, and B, you get the weirdos who are showing up on the properties at all hours of the night trying to catch ghosts.
Right. And there's been a lot of vandalism done because people do break in and try to spend the night there and ghost hunt.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the buildings that we drove past, when I laughed, I was like, look, somebody spray painted a pentagram on the concrete.
Yeah.
That actually happened. There was a pentagram.
Yes.
Completely done wrong, but I got the gist of what was going on the patio of one of the buildings. And it was completely blocked off. Windows were broken, so you could tell that people had been in and out of there.
Yeah.
But the vibe from this place.
It was incredible.
The second that we got out of the car and we could walk to the building, just walking through the little tunnels that you could get through was just, oh my God.
Yeah.
You could feel the energy from everybody that had been there. Mm-hmm. Like, you could feel it. And I even said as soon as we pulled in, I was like, I feel like somebody is watching us from every corner.
Yeah. And if you look up at the building, you can look and like most of the lower windows are all boarded off.
Mm-hmm.
But the windows that are higher up, if you look, you would pretty much swear that there's somebody looking right back at you.
Yeah.
And it was like from all directions.
It's not just like one section, it's all of it. And the way that it's set up is when you pull into the parking lot for the hotel, you have the main building, but then everything off to each side, it's still abandoned. Like there's still sections of the asylum parts that they're converting to the hotel that are still abandoned. So you may only get to the end of the wing for that room that you're staying in and realize, oh crap, like
Yeah.
there's no other people. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's dead space. And I think that's what makes it creepier.
And they still have the old equipment, the old beds.
Yep.
Some of the old, like, wheelchairs. And that's still just hanging out over there.
Yeah, they have the museum in the bottom, in the entryway of the lobby. They have a little miniature museum of Buffalo, New York, plus the asylum. They have the original wheelchair to one of the...
It was from 1920.
Yeah, one of the ladies that was there. There was the loom, I think it was called.
They have a piece of the wrought iron decorative whatever it's
Sconces.
called.
Yeah.
From up on the top. That
They
was
had one
torn
of the
down.
original pillars, like the wooden pillar.
They
that was
tore
scary
down
looking.
the wrought iron when they put on the new metal roof.
Yep.
So they saved that for the museum. And the wood pillar, you could touch that and you could feel it
yeah.
just coming out of the wood.
I didn't like any part of that at all. And then like in the middle, they just have like this sculpture of what the asylum looked like at one point and what it is going to look like. And just looking at it was like, this is amazing and scary at the same time.
Well, originally, when we got there and we were reading all the things about the asylum, it really sounded like it was an actual nice place and they took care of the people there.
Yeah.
Because, when they built this, they had good intentions, okay? They built it with these huge, ginormous windows because they thought the natural sunlight would help people.
And it's literally like every few like inches, there's
And
another
we're talking
window.
Floor to ceiling windows in most of the areas. They gave them outside balconies that are all obviously closed in with the suicide cages, as they called them, so that they could go outside and get sunlight, fresh air. They built some of the walls, they have a curvature to them so that was supposed to stop lining the hallways with beds so they wouldn't be overcrowded, so it would be easier to take care of people. Well, their good intentions didn't last very long.
And this is kind of what upset me once we were able to do more research, because they have the museum with a little bit of the history, which as a business, I get why they had to do it that way. But now, after doing a lot of the research that we've done, I'm kind of annoyed.
Yeah.
Because, they made it seem like this place was like, well, for one, state of the art, which in that time frame, yes, it was state of the art.
Yeah.
They hadn't done a lot of things, like they were new to medicine, things like that. But the way they made it seem was like they treated these people like human beings, and then we do the research to find out that none of that was correct.
Right. They did something, and I, of course, can't remember now what it was called, but basically they would take people with, I think, was it schizophrenia? And they would give them small doses of insulin at certain amounts of time, and eventually they would be put into
an insulin-induced coma
for roughly an hour or so. And they had hoped that would alter their brain chemistry enough to alleviate their symptoms. Well, it didn't.
If you inject insulin into somebody who doesn't have diabetes, there's only a few things that can happen.
Yeah. They were causing heart problems. They were causing numerous other physical problems, not fixing anything like they thought they were. But then the stories say that led to lobotomy. That they started with this, and then from there it went into the practice of a lobotomy.
Right. And that's been a thing for,
Yeah.
I think they stopped doing that in like the 60s.
60s or 70s.
Yeah, I think that was still pretty early on, but yeah, like they showed all these pictures in the museum of people sitting around, like throwing a ball around and all the arts and crafts and things that they can do, which then we found out that the only reason that these people were pictured doing those things was because it appeased the rich community and they could send their loved ones there thinking that they were going to have the best care and all this other stuff when they're just science experiments.
Yeah, they made their suites look extremely extravagant and comfortable, but yet those were only the select suites that they used to show the relatives, thinking that, hey, we're sending Aunt Jane off to this asylum because we don't want her here anymore, because back then it was a shame on your family.
Right.
But she's going to go here and she's going to be well taken care of. Well, no, once they got there, they're shoved off into the women's wing or the men's wing, and
right, and they're only, brought out for experimentation time. That was kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was.
Because I was really hoping this place was going to be different than a lot of the other asylums that are out there.
Yeah, and then there was one lady who, I guess, had taken 2 girls out to like the middle of nowhere on Halloween. One was 8, I think the other one was like 6-ish. And she decided to push them off a bridge. Well, one fell to her death. The other one survived and testified against this lady in court. So they sent her off to this asylum where they then diagnosed her with epilepsy.
How does epilepsy lead to murder? That's all I want to know.
I don't understand. And I don't understand why you would be in an asylum for epilepsy.
Because they didn't know how to treat it, and that was the only thing that they could think of.
But that doesn't make any sense. But then after serving a few years there, she convinced them that she was fine and they let her go. There's rumors that she got married, but then she disappeared off the face of the planet because the one neurologist who had overseen her care said he didn't feel that it was a very good idea for her to go get married and have children of her own after what she had done.
I want to know how you have somebody in your care, in your custody, and they just disappear off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I don't
Obviously,
understand.
you kept crappy records.
Right?
I get haunted now.
Well, maybe not, because we're exposing the truth. It wasn't all roses and happiness there like they try to pretend.
Yeah, I mean, it is a massive place, though.
And it was gorgeous back in the day. We did see pictures, but
they did keep a lot of it looks like they kept a lot of the original architecture. There was a ballroom. The way that it was set up for what we could do was very meticulous, because kind of had to sneak some places. So basically, the elevator takes you from the lower level. Oh my God, LL.
Level.
It takes you from the lower level to the 4th floor, which so far that's what they have. So the lower level is where you check into the hotel. You have the museum. Then you have the 1st floor.
No, check-in is on the 1st floor. The museum is on the
museum
lower level.
is on the lower level. So then you go up 1 to the 1st floor. That's your check-in, and the first set of like little hangout spots. There wasn't a whole lot we could really do because you have the check-in desk, the restaurant. It was very loud, but there was really nothing. I mean, they had rooms that led into other rooms, but then they just stopped.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a weird little hangout place. Well, then you go up to the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor is where the wings are. So it splits off 2 different directions. One goes one way, one goes the other. So you have those little hangout spots. It's also where they do all the business and like the meeting areas. The 3rd and 4th floors are another set of rooms, more business meeting areas, which some of the pictures we got from there, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's just this table. Looks like a dining room table with like 8 chairs in the middle of it. And the light coming off for this room is spectacular. Because we couldn't do the tour, I don't know really what that wing was.
Yeah.
But it was gorgeous.
It was.
It smelled like a hospital.
Yeah.
but it was gorgeous. And then the 4th floor was the ballroom, which we did find out from one of the little girls that we had stopped that worked there, who said that a lot of people on the 4th floor hear like laughing and giggling. So I don't know if the 4th floor is something that was in the pictures where there was a lot of group activities. I want to assume so, just because that is a very large space.
It is. It's massive.
And the energy that you get from that room is just, it's giant. It's, I don't even know. Because
it's not like...
It wasn't scary.
No, and it wasn't like the vibes from the rest of the place.
Right.
It was very peaceful.
Yeah.
Happy.
It was definitely, I guess that they use that for like wedding venues and stuff because it was decorated like they were having a party or they were going to have a party at some point.
They have really pretty gold chairs and gold like candle centerpieces that were sitting lined up on the bar. Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous.
And you could hear like the glasses shifting, like somebody was behind the bar.
And we could hear like taps on the bar. We got some K2 hits in there.
We did.
I don't know yet if we got anything on the recorder, but walking around, it was kind of...
It was one of the more peaceful places I think we've explored.
And when you get to the dance floor, it always felt like somebody was going to brush past you while they were dancing.
Yeah, like it wasn't... I usually get like weird feelings about places. This was one of the places that I didn't get like a lot of weird feelings. Now, when we first like arrived and we walked through the door, I was really overwhelmed. There was already a lot of people in the museum and like checking in, and being in such a small space with that many people, I was already like freaking out.
Yeah.
But after that, it was calm. For a place that served as what it did, it was calm, which is weird.
But you could feel the chaos coming from the other buildings. So.
Oh, yeah. Just walking like around the fence line, I felt like I just had people just staring down at me. We did get a lot of pictures, as much as we could, of some things. And reviewing the footage, reviewing the pictures and things, which just happened today because I didn't get a chance to, since it was pretty short notice that we went. There is a shadow. I stared at it for like 15 minutes because I didn't think that's what it was. But you can see the outline of somebody. And I thought maybe it could be like construction or whatnot, but you can see through them.
That was one of the windows that we kept feeling like there was somebody looking at us from.
Yeah.
And I haven't went through my pictures yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got a couple in those too, because you can just feel the eyes on you.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I'm hoping that we can go back and do...
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll have somebody to do the tours.
Yeah.
We can figure out about the paranormal stuff if they do those and whatnot. But even just doing a tour to get more history would be fantastic.
And I've watched a couple of YouTube videos from people who have stayed in the rooms and they've caught some evidence in their rooms. Now, I don't know if it would be as, quote, exciting as the evidence you would get from the actual abandoned buildings.
Right.
But it would still be fun.
Yeah, I think so. And even just looking at some of the rooms that they've redone that they posted on their website, they look high end, but you can tell that things have happened like in those spaces. And even some of the rooms on look. So a lot of the way that this building is set up is there's a building, there's a space, and then there's another building. So essentially you could be looking through the window into another building.
Yeah.
And just thinking about spending the night in a room that could possibly be looking through to an abandoned building is something that I really want. Because it would be fantastic to just be like hanging out and all of a sudden you could see somebody across like staring at you, knowing there's nobody in there because it's closed down and there's nothing going on. I think that would be fantastic.
I do too. That would be amazing. So if we do get to go back and stay, we have to like look at the rooms in perspective as to where they are.
Yeah.
So we can get one of those rooms that we can see across.
Yeah. That would be something that would I'd love to do.
We ended up while we were We ended up driving in circles for a while trying to figure out the building because everything said go to the front. Well, we couldn't go to the front because there was this,
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but there was something going on. And they had a food truck, another truck, and another truck, and then they had cones lined up. But people were driving through the
Yeah,
cones.
this place
So we're like,
it's very
I'm
confusing.
not sure.
Yeah, it was very confusing. So the way that it was explained to us was that the front of the building is actually the back of the building, and that the entrance to the hotel and everything that's down on the bottom is actually the front
Yeah.
of the building, which is weird. But it is very confusing because there are so many roads, and I think roads that aren't even being used are still open to the property, which is also very confusing because there are literally buildings everywhere.
Yeah.
They're not like, there's one big section that's all connected, but then you have sporadically have all of these other buildings that are still part of the asylum.
So we ended up following this one car because they didn't know where they were going either, obviously. And we kept following them because, you know, they had New York license plates. We're like, they'll get us out of here eventually. They know where they're going.
Right.
Well, we ended up going down this road that was a road at some point
It
in
was,
time.
yeah, because
but
it led
wasn't
right up to one of the
anymore.
buildings.
Yeah, so we got to drive down this road right alongside the building. We're in the car here, the fence is here, the building is here. And so we got out of the cars and we're just looking up at this huge, massive building. That was one of the most creepy areas.
Yeah, because you have all of these different roads that are supposed to lead to buildings that are no longer open. Seeing the ruins and like the decay of some of these buildings. Now the outside, it still looks like there are buildings.
Yeah.
But you can see through the windows and just how everything is just like falling in on itself. It's creepy. Like, I don't think I would want to explore that at night.
Dusk, maybe.
Yeah.
Pure dark, I would be afraid I'd fall through something.
Yeah. I mean, because you could see the holes that were in some of the ceilings and like the roof and whatnot. And then like the suicide cages, the cages that they have around the stairs, you could tell that it looks like people were breaking into them because a lot of the fence was like moved away.
Yeah.
But the stairs were falling out. I would be even afraid to like explore that area because the stairs could give out at any time.
I would be more afraid that I would get like locked in the cage and
My
get rusted
claustrophobia,
shut or something.
my claustrophobia would say no, and I would claw my way out of those stairs because it's very, like, just seeing the pictures, it is very narrow.
Yeah.
Very narrow.
No.
You keep everybody like in a straight line coming down those stairs.
Yeah.
I'd cry.
Yeah, that would be a little scary.
Listen, New York, you need to get your stuff together because I have never heard the word traffic circles, which to us is called a roundabout, by the way, in my life.
Yeah, no.
Our entire GPS ride was take traffic circle to the left or to the right. And now these aren't just normal traffic circles. It is a traffic circle with 5 different roads and it just says go to the left. Which one? You need to get your shit together.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. That's my spiel for the day.
There were a handful of times where it just said take the traffic circle to the left and we're like,
And sometimes you couldn't even go left though.
Yeah. So we just picked a direction. We're like, nope, guess that wasn't the right way.
No, but we did get some, a lot of the places that we went were really nice to look at.
Yeah. We ended up visiting this one cemetery, which, I don't know, the cemeteries there are weird.
I did not feel anything. Well, I did, but that was kind of cool. I've said it before. I've said it a few times on here. I don't do well in cemeteries at all. Just getting to the road onto the cemeteries and I freak out. But the cemetery that we went to was the most peaceful, calming cemetery I have ever been to. There was only one time I felt something and it was weird. It was one of the days we were there. It was pretty crappy outside. We were just taking a drive to get to know everything. We said, hey, let's drive through here, see what this is about, because we wanted to see if we could do some K2 stuff, because we've been looking at some other ideas of what to do. So we were like, we'll walk through the cemetery, do some voice box, some K2 stuff. We drove through. All of a sudden, I'm like, hey, I have this feeling. We need to go. well, she drove to the end and like there was like no more road. You couldn't go any further. It was funny
It
because
was.
the section that I was drawn to, the headstone read Guido, which is my great grandfather's name. And the date read October 27th, 1973. October is the month that my husband and I started dating. So that whole week of October, we met, we started dating. And then 1973 is my mom's, the year that she was born. And that section right there was the only feeling that I had that I needed to be there. And it was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
Like I have never gone to look for headstones before, and as soon as I walked up there, I was like, "Oh, this is great." Well, then 2 rows back and to the left, there was a George and a Kathy, which is my grandparents' names. And I was like, "Oh my god." And then the earth opened upon us and the rain started and we couldn't get to finish that day.
More like a monsoon started.
But it was a really calming
Yeah.
experience.
We went to a couple cemeteries, and this area seems to be a very religious area to begin with.
There are churches like every 2 seconds.
Yeah. But I have never in my life been to a cemetery where it has ever been so
Calm.
peaceful, void of anything.
I mean, we even sat next to the pond and just sat there for a minute.
Yeah.
There was no sounds.
No.
Literally, there was no sounds.
We would hear a frog on occasion. That was it.
There were no birds. There was no wind.
No.
It was just silence.
Yeah. It was kind of unnerving yet calm.
Yeah. And we were trying not to be weird because there was some people there, so we had to like go opposite directions, but we did get a few hits.
We did. And then we pulled out the pendulum.
Yep.
And we asked if there was anybody there that wanted to talk with us. And
it happened to be one of the graves that we actually walked by, too.
Yeah, we got a yes. Said, can you point the pendulum in the direction where you are buried? And it didn't move. Or no, I said, can you point the pendulum in the direction where you are? And it didn't move. And I said, are you right here with us? And we got a yes. I said, okay, do you have something you want to say? It said, yes. I said, okay, did we go past your grave? Said, yes.
Yeah, it was really hard to ask questions when you're in a cemetery.
It really
because you don't know
is.
what to ask.
Yeah, because it has to be like a yes or no. It's kind of hard to phrase.
Right.
Like,
I mean, because
where are you? What happened to you? Where do you want us to go?
Right. I mean, because you already know a lot of their information because
Yeah.
it's on their headstone.
Yeah. So we're sitting there, and the name Francis just popped in my head. I said, is your name Francis? And I said, yes. I said, okay. And I started walking. I said, am I going in the right direction? It said, yes. I kept walking. Kelsey, you were a few steps ahead of me.
I was just lollygagging. I was just walking.
I would just stop every now and again, and I'm like, are we going in the right direction? Yes. Then I decided to cut left and go up a row. And I said, okay, now we still
Yeah,
going
because
in-
I was walking on because I was wearing shoes that would get soaked very easily. So I was walking in the street. You and I were walking like parallel. I kept walking because I was like, well, I didn't see it. And then you just like stopped. And you're like, no, it's right here. And I was like, I didn't even see it.
Yeah. So I cut up a little bit, and I said, am I still going in the right direction? And it said, yes. And then I stopped, and it was like doing a huge circle.
It was swinging.
And I was like, am I in the right spot? And it kept swinging. Yes. I looked down, and there in the headstone is Francis.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So we just sat and talked for a few minutes, and I said, do you have anything else you wanted to say? And said no. We told him, hey, you don't have to hang around here. You can move on if you would like. But
No.
apparently he just wanted somebody to visit because this was an older headstone from like the early 1920s, I think it was. So they probably don't have family that visits anymore, and he just wanted a visitor.
Yep, that was all it was. That was it. Like after we had minimal contact of what was going on, it was done. Like, it was like, goodbye, okay, that was all I wanted.
Yeah, pendulum completely stopped moving, and we're like, okay, bye.
It was very peaceful. I would go through cemeteries and talk to other dead people.
But I like the ones that are a little more creepy. This one was a little too calm for me, but, that's just me.
It was definitely, I think, one of the older cemeteries because a lot of the headstones that we saw, it was like, there was some that I was amazed. It was like 1853 to like 19 something. And I'm like, oh my God.
There were quite a few people just in this one section that lived to be like in their 90s.
Oh yeah, I think few of the older ones, the youngest that I had seen was like early 20s.
Yeah, I saw one or two from like 23 to 26.
Yeah, but most of them, according to their headstones, were like into their 90s.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. You don't get a lot of people that live to be that old anymore.
No. No.
But yeah, we had our little fun impromptu adventure and
a lot of military people were buried there.
Oh, yes.
But they do it differently. They don't do it like they do it here.
No.
They have their headstone here, and then over here is their military headstone.
If anybody knows if anybody knows like anything about that, if you want to like leave a comment or something, because we had no idea that you could do that. They had like military and then they had like their regular headstone.
Yeah.
Like, is there a reason for that? Because we couldn't find one.
Well, I don't know about all cemeteries here, but the one that I have family buried in,
they usually put it all together.
Yeah, it's all together, and then you get this other little thing that will stick in the ground.
Yeah.
So we were totally confused at first until we figured out, oh, hey, look, this matches this.
Yeah, it almost became like a fun game that shouldn't have been played. But yeah, we were like, oh, look, this is here, this is here, this is all matching dates and everything.
But then you'd come across a random one that didn't seem to match anything, so...
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
it was fun.
It was. We found a couple cool little shops and whatnot.
I do recommend visiting there.
Yeah.
If you're ever out that way. It's very cute. It's a very cute area.
It's very cute. Couldn't live there. Houses are too close together. There are too many people. My anxiety was like through the roof. But everybody was really nice.
They were.
Like the people that we like did run into, they were really nice.
I couldn't live in Buffalo for the simple fact of that stupid bridge and the traffic.
So to get to where we needed to go,
you had to go up in the middle of the sky.
It was not that high, but it was high. So where we had to go from where we were staying to get to Buffalo.
Felt like I was in the Jetsons.
It's high. So over the water area, so you get a lot of the boats and whatnot.
Didn't look.
But I know you didn't look.
No.
But it almost goes up and drops like a roller coaster. And the funny thing is like
my car was going
you could actually see like the curve and the drop down from the other side from where we were. And we had to cross the bridge. And I'm laughing because I am terrified of heights. I don't do well. And I drove through downtown Cincinnati and had to cross that bridge, and I will never do that again. But the look on April's face when she realized we had to cross this bridge was hysterical because it goes up, curves, and drops.
Yeah.
And
my hands are sweating just
I know. I was like holding on to the door for dear life because I was like, if we're going over, there ain't nothing stopping us except water and concrete. And people do not know how to drive.
No.
Like, we were, but I also don't think we were going the speed limit. I think we were just putzing at this point. Because the look on your face was just hysterical. Well, then, once we got into, I'm pretty sure it was like the downtown Buffalo area.
Yeah.
To get to the asylum, we were supposed to get back on the road through the bridge, and we just took a lot of traffic circles.
We just kept going until it decided to tell us another way to get there, because
we did end up in some sketchy parts.
They were, but they weren't bad. There was no bars.
I got some really good pictures.
Yeah.
No.
There were no bars on the windows or anything, but there were a couple areas that
classify that as a sketchy neighborhood.
Well,
because some people just have those.
No, I'm talking about like stores.
Oh, yeah, no.
If I would have seen stores with bars on the windows, I would have took a turn instead of kept going. But I mean, it wasn't to the point where I thought we had to like hit the floor, but
no.
There were a couple kind of sketchy spots.
Yeah, but it wasn't too bad. It was a really nice area. I got some really good pictures of like a lot of the artwork that they did on the side of their buildings and whatnot. But I definitely would go back.
Yeah.
Getting some more time to explore that whole area. I'm sure we could find more historical buildings.
Yeah. There's the Naval Park. There's a whole nother military monument thing that would probably have some stuff. Definitely now that we know a little bit more about the area, we could go back and get more things accomplished.
Yeah.
Because we would know how to do it better. But
I'd definitely take a different route to bypass the bridge next time.
Yeah, I'm not doing that again. We'll go the southern route and not hit the bridge.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Okay, well,
I think that's it. Buffalo, New York. It's a good trip, good ride. We'll have to do it again for a little longer and get some more things, but it turned out to be a really well impromptu trip.
Yes, and next time we're going to plan it around their tours.
If they have them.
If they have them.